Welcome, everyone, to our discussion. And sorry if you see me looking off, it's because I'm trying to let people in. Our discussion about whether or not Reiki can do harm. And so, of course, especially if you practice the let animals lead method, we always say, oh no, Reiki can do no harm. It's completely safe. And that's in kind of true. It's inherently true. I mean, Reiki itself isn't what causes harm. What causes harm is us. So not by and so this is kind of hard to explain. It's not the Reiki. So if we sit and we're offering Reiki itself, the energy of Reiki, which is just pure love and an energy, positive energy, right? That on its own cannot cause any harm. What causes harm is our intention, our presence, um, our attitude. Oh, Patricia, hey, I just want to acknowledge that you said hi. Thank you so much. So we have to really look at ourselves and what's happening when we say Reiki can do no harm. You should feel really comfortable. You can turn a negative into a positive. Yes. You could tell clients, you can tell people, no, Reiki cannot do harm, because that is the truth. What does harm is the approach. And this is something else you can share with people. You can say that, well, Reiki itself doesn't cause harm, but how it is offered can cause harm. And so what I mean by that is we have to really look at how we're approaching Reiki with animals. So I want to start by saying, which I think all of you know, all of you on the call here already know this, but I need to say this for people who might be listening in, that human Reiki and animal Reiki are completely different. They're generally offered the same way, in a way, I guess, but really they're very, very different. So if I've shared this example with all of you many times. So Dawn is, I know, an amazing Reiki practitioner, right? So if I go to Dawn, I expect Dawn to place her hands on me. Even if I don't know anything about Reiki, Dawn is going to tell me, I'm going to put my hands, if you're comfortable, I'm going to put my hands on you. And we're going to be focusing on, clearing out what might be happening to you, right? So we might be focused on bringing relief to some pain or helping with some mental issues that I'm having. We're there as Reiki practitioners for humans to actually help and fix. But if we take that same type of mindset and apply it to animals, that is where everything can go south. That's where animals can start to exhibit signs of like vomiting, uncontrollable shaking. They can back themselves up. They can go to almost hurt themselves, like if they try to escape from you. There's things that animals will do that can cause themselves harm, or we are causing harms just by our approach. So I want to share 4 different ways that we can actually cause harm with Reiki. And the first one is when we see ourselves as a healer. So again, when we look at human Reiki, I want to see myself as a healer. You want to see me as a healer. You want to know that if you come to me to get relief from pain or to be healed, that I have that ability to do so. It's just like if you go to a psychic, you don't want a psychic to just say, well, I don't really know. No, you want to feel comfortable in what they're sharing and what they're imparting on you, right? And so when we go to a human Reiki practitioner, we want to know that they are a healer, that they see themselves as a healer. But with animals, when we do that, when we say, okay, I'm the healer, you're broken, I need to fix you. Now, all of a sudden, you're seeing them as broken. You're seeing them in a way that they don't see themselves. So as humans, when we're sick or we have something wrong with us, we feel sorry for ourselves. We start thinking about what ifs. We start thinking about the past, like maybe, oh, when I was healthy, now I'm not healthy anymore. How long will this last? Like when I had COVID, that was one of the questions I kept asking God. It's like, how long is this going to last? Because it lasted 3 months and then I had long haul COVID. So it was this really long journey. And you're constantly thinking, oh my gosh, will I be able to do this? Will I be able to do that? Animals don't think like that. Animals are in the present moment. They're in the present moment and they don't see themselves as broken, as injured, as needing to be fixed. Yes, they might have like a hurt paw. They might be limping, but they're not going, oh my gosh, I'm limping and oh no, and this is horrible. And what am I going to do? They just kind of go, okay, I've got this going on, but I've got to keep going, right? So when we approach animals, we have to see them as whole. We're there to do as animal Reiki practitioners is not to fix. What we are there to do is to sit, bring ourselves into balance, bring ourselves into the energy of joy and love, and just create a beautiful, safe space. And when we do that, that's when trust is established. That's when they can feel comfortable whether or not they want to connect, whether or not they want to relax, whether or not they want to be with us in that space, right? They have a choice. But if we come in as, hey, I'm a healer, you're broken, I'm going to fix you. And they're like, what? Wait a minute, you're going to fix me. And now they are seeing themselves as less than because we're seeing ourselves as better than. And it's not, and there's no judgment here because this is something that we all go through. It comes from a really good place inside of our heart, right? We want to help, we want to fix. But sometimes fixing is actually doing the opposite of what we want to do. If we're just being, that's more healing with animals than fixing is with humans, right? We want to fix, we want to help humans. But with animals, we really have to take a step back. So the examples that come to mind about this are a couple different ones, but I know Lauren, who has been on here a while ago, she works with blind horses. And when she first went to the horse rescue, the man who is running the rescue told her, oh, they're really frightened of people. They won't come up to you. They don't trust humans, on and on, right? So she's like, that's fine, no worries. And so what she did was she just stood there and she just meditated and just focused on being with the horses, being in their energy, being out with them. And they slowly started to relax. And one of the most difficult ones came up to her and was nudging against her. And the guy, who was actually a Reiki master, ironically enough, was like, oh my God, I've never seen the horses act like this. I've never seen them be so relaxed around humans. And the reason for that is she wasn't there to fix. She wasn't there to change anything. She was just there to be and to share space. And they immediately sensed that. And they came up to her like, yes, this is exactly what we want. We don't need to be fixed. Another example of this is when Kathleen took her class to a horse rescue in Sacramento, California. And when she went to the horse rescue, the woman told her, hey, there was a Reiki practitioner in the round pen with the horses just a little while ago, and they chased her out. Okay, they literally chased her out. And I can guarantee you, when she went in, she was, I'm going to fix you. Because these horses that were in rescue, they were ex-therapy horses and they hadn't been treated well. And they were very shut down horses. And so even at this rescue where they have shelter, they have food, they have protection, right? They feel safe, they're still really shut down. And so that Reiki practitioner thought, oh, I'll help these horses. I'll fix them. I'll heal them. And they were like, no, you will not. And so they chased her out. So the woman shares this with Kathleen, and Kathleen says, that's totally fine. That's not what we do. We don't focus on what's wrong. We don't even go in with them. We're going to be standing around the outside of the arena. And if they want to come up, great. And if they don't, that's fine too. And slowly but surely, the horses started to open up, started to come stand next to the students, started to relax, started to yawn, started to show signs of acceptance. And afterwards, the woman was crying. And it's like, I've never seen these horses act like this before. And once Kathleen and the class left, the woman took videos. And you can see this if you Google Kathleen Prasad and what is it? If you do Kathleen Prasad and horses, this would probably come up, or rescue horses. But there's a video that the woman took, and I know some of you have seen it, I've shared it, where the horses were like playing and they're bucking and they're rolling around. And the woman is like astonished and she's filming it. And she's like, who's the old man? who are the old men here? Because these horses are old, they're broken down, and they're so excited. What caused that healing, that transformation, same with Lauren, was not seeing them as broken, but seeing them as the beautiful, loving lights that they are, and as the teachers they are, going in with honor and respect and saying, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm so excited to be in this space if you'll let me. And, I just want to be here and I'm going to meditate. And then I always say, and I would love it if you would help me because I'm not really good at this. My mind goes 1,000 miles an hour, right? So there's a huge difference when we go in to fix and when we go in as just to sit and be in the energy of those animals. Another time, one time I went to this, it was a very small rescue. It was a horse trainer that had kind of changed his whole tune about training horses and just wanted to give these 6 horses just a safe place to land and just be horses. And his name was Sam, the owner. And he had one ex-racehorse, Will, who was a cribber, which means he liked to chew on the fence, which is really dangerous for them because the wood gets in their throat and it can cause damage. And so he was cribbing and he was exhibiting other nervous behaviors. And so I told Sam, yeah, I'll come over, I'll work with Will. And so, I met Will and I said hi to Will and I just told him how pretty he was. And, I was just going to sit here if he was open to that. And so I sat on the outside of his enclosure and I turned my back and I just started meditating. And Sam came up and said, aren't you going to go in with them? And I said, oh, no, I don't need to go in with them. I'm just going to sit and meditate. And Sam was fascinated because here he is, a trainer, you're always doing something. And I just sat and I meditated and Will stopped cribbing and he started to get really relaxed and he hung his head and the other horses started to get really relaxed. And so Sam was like, wow, I can't believe the reaction in this horse. And then he wanted me to teach him this. And we had some incredible classes out at his little rescue. I trained him, his partner, and another trainer. And it was really incredible. And the horses were amazing because, again, we weren't seeing them as broken. We're seeing them as whole, just as like we would want to be seen, right? Like you can humanize it in this way. If you lost a leg, let's say, and because, we know many dogs that lose a leg and they don't even skip a beat. They're just keep on going. So we lose a leg and then everybody's focused on, oh, wow, you lost your leg. Oh my gosh, you lost your leg. Oh my, and you're like, yeah, it happened. It's over. I'm getting by. I'm doing it. Right. Do you really want that old energy hanging around you, like reminding you of what happened? Or do you want somebody to just completely ignore the fact that you lost your leg and be like, hey, hi, it's great to see you, blah, 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 right? There's a shift in the energy. So when we say Reiki can do no harm, we're talking about when we go in and we go in with pure love, pure acceptance, and we're just being with the animals. When we go in with an agenda to heal, that is when Reiki can do harm. And by harm, like with the horses, when they chase that Reiki practitioner out, it can almost sometimes be harm to the person, not necessarily even to the animal. But so we really want to be careful when we're going to sit with animals. We want to make sure that we're not going in with the mindset that I need to heal, I need to fix. We're going in with the mindset that I am here to just be with you, to share this beautiful space with you. So huge difference in the energy. And remember, animals are super sensitive to energy. That's how they communicate. So when we come in with this energy, oh, I'm going to fix you, that is an energy where it's like, wait, what? I'm not broken. So it is a weird energy to them. So just being mindful of that. The second one is when we see ourselves as, not see ourselves, sorry, I'm looking at my notes and then starting to go, okay. No, when our emotions cause a disturbance. So in this situation, our emotions can affect how we're sharing Reiki within animals, how we're sitting in the space with them, right? If we come in, and this happens a lot at the shelter, and even in horse rescue, this happens, right? You have an animal that's come in that is either like malnourished, severely abused, has deep emotional issues. You see an animal like that, and of course, we're all really empathetic people. We start to feel sorry for the animal. We start to feel upset at what happened to this animal. We start to feel upset at the people who did this to the animal. And so what does that do to our energy when we come in to sit with an animal? We're in this like energy of worry, which is like this kind of energy, anger, which is a very heavy, mean energy, right? And that's what the animal is feeling. They don't feel that, oh, I'm angry at the person. I'm not angry at you. I'm angry for you, or I'm worried for you. They don't understand that difference. All they feel is that energy of worry. So when we come in and we're worried, that can cause a distress in the animal because our worry is contagious. And they start thinking, you're worried. Should I be worried? I mean, we all know neurotic people who have neurotic animals, right? Your stress is contagious. So when we're going to sit and offer Reiki, if our energy is off, that can create stress. And so it can, Reiki in that sense can do harm by causing stress to the animals. And we've seen this a lot, and I've seen this in classes. People who like, this is why when we go to care, we try not to get the stories, although Kristen does share the stories. I know at Brighthaven, Gail didn't like to share the stories because people focus on the stories. I know Kelly said a couple weeks ago or before the break that when she goes into the shelter, she used to read the cards, but then she realized it was really messing with her mindset. So she stopped reading about the animals and just started focusing on creating a beautiful, loving space with them. And so it's the same thing for us when we have to be really mindful. Are we focused on what's wrong with the animal, their history, or are we just letting that go and just saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here with you. I'm so excited to be in this space with you. Because when we focus on what happened to them, what are we doing? Like we don't know how animals see or communicate with us, right? We don't know how they understand us, but they do understand us. So if you are envisioning things in your mind, that animal might be seeing those same visions and might be becoming distressed. Definitely the animal is picking up on your nervous energy, your worried energy, your angry energy. They're picking up on that. So we always want to make sure that we are doing whatever we can, either through the precepts, through the all is well mantra, through our belly breathing, to ground ourselves and bring in that peace, and then go in and sit with the animal, because they don't need us to come in and be nervous, be upset. They don't need that. What they need is for us to be present, to be in that space with them, and to just share love and positivity, and don't see them and their history. Just see them who they are today, because wherever they are, usually if it's in a shelter, at someone's house, someone's rescued an animal, they're safe. They're safe. They have food, they have shelter, they have love, they have medical care, they're getting cared for. So why would we want to focus on what's happening? Why would we want to focus on something that happened in the past when what's important is what's happening in the here and now? And so, second point, just make sure your emotions are in check and that you're very grounded when you go in, because as you're sitting there, and especially if you're an animal communicator, remember we keep animal communication and animal Reiki separate, but as you're sitting there, you might get a message, or the animal might be clearing something and sharing something as it leaves them. It might be like, the animal is releasing some of this abuse, and you might see it as, oh, they're showing me this abuse, right? And we have to really be mindful that we don't attach to that we say, oh, thank you so much for sharing that, and then let it go. And then if you're an animal communicator, at the end, you can always ask, if the animal wants to share, ask the person if they would be open to that, and then ask the animal if they'd like to share more about that. Because a lot of times And I'm not an animal communicator, but I know from other animal communicators that have taken our classes, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I think they were just releasing it because they didn't really want to talk about it afterwards. So just keep that in mind, that you might get some images, some words, whatever that is, a feeling, whatever that is for you, however you communicate with animals. But know that during animal Reiki sessions, that's when we're creating this beautiful, safe, sacred space for them to relax and let go. In that space, we don't ever want to stop and say, oh my gosh, they were abused. Da, 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 da. We just want to say, okay, thank you. But it might be hard. So go back to your breathing. Maybe you draw a choku-rei on your leg, which is a really powerful thing to do, which is what I would do to ground myself when I feel really unbalanced. Drawing choku-rei, if you know a level 2 symbol, or you can just do the breathing. You can even do just the Stanford breathing, right? The Stanford scientific, where you're breathing in deeply through your nose and then blowing out through your mouth, making sure your out breath is longer than your in breath, and then making sure you're blowing out your mouth, breathing in through your nose, blowing out through your mouth. And so my third point is, and this is a really important one, when we don't allow freedom of movement, it's really important to allow freedom of movement. And I'll tell you why. When we have an animal cornered, that creates pressure, right? I remember one class I was in, it was a class at Remus that Kathleen was teaching and I was helping with. I was helping to assist. And one of the girls there was a vet nurse from the UK. And she said that she took a Reiki class where there was 7 or 8 students, and they were in an enclosure with sheep and they were cornering the sheep. And she said, I had to walk out and leave the class because you could tell the sheep were really scared and nervous. They have all these people, but remember, they had really good intentions, right? This isn't a judgment like, oh, these people were bad. They cornered the animals. One, they're doing what they're told. And two, they have a really good intention. They're coming from love in their heart. They're coming from that place of, I want to help. So there's no judgment against these people. It's how they were being taught. And we have to be really mindful when we're with an animal, like let's say you're in a horse's stall, or you're in, an enclosure with goats or with sheep or animals that can't necessarily get away. That's why in the let animals lead method, we usually try to stay outside the enclosure at first, when they first get to know us, because we want them to feel freedom of movement. Now, you can go out in a pasture because horses have freedom of movement. They can come and go, and there's that. But a small enclosure can create stress, and that can cause an animal to hurt themselves. They can panic trying to get away from you. They can panic trying to jump a fence or get out of the enclosure away from all of this. I remember Kathleen shares a story. She saw this Facebook video of a woman. She was doing angel Reiki, and she was hovering her hands over a blind baby lamb, right? A little lamb. And the lamb was just shaking uncontrollably, and she's blind and she couldn't escape. And of course the woman had completely good intentions, right? She's trying to help this little blind lamb, but she's not paying attention to what the lamb is showing her, which is, I'm scared, I'm nervous. And you don't need to be right over an animal. You can be far apart. Remember, your energy is so strong. It's not confined to your hands or to your body. Your energy is huge. So when we're working with animals, we have to be really sensitive to that we might be in a kennel and think, oh, I've got to get really close to the animal. And really, no, we don't. We can be outside that kennel. We can be in the next room. And remember, this is distant Reiki too, right? We can't say a distant Reiki works and then say, oh no, I need to be right on that animal. I need to be right with that animal. You don't. So that's another way Reiki can cause harm is, and again, you can feel a theme here. It's us that's causing the harm. It's not Reiki as the energy itself. It's us and what we're doing with the animals that could be causing harm. So we never want to be cornering an animal, especially in the shelter. If the animal starts to shake when you're in there, if they start to turn away or curl up and try to get as far away from you as possible, you need to back up. You have to mirror, in some ways, the animal. If they're going away, you need to pull away. They're showing you, this is too close. If you have to pull out of the room, that's okay. Your energy is strong. You have to trust. And here's too another thing. We don't have confidence in what we're doing sometimes, which causes these behaviors, because we're not trusting that our energy is strong, that our energy is pure, that our energy on its own can create miracles. And I don't know, like, I want to just share again, Caesar, when, Caesar is the pit bull that I was involved in rehoming, and I had posted on my Facebook, and all this positive energy went out towards Caesar. And if you are on Facebook, my Facebook is public. You can just go on there. We don't have to be friends. You can see the latest update with Caesar, and he is in his new home, and there's a female pit bull. And even though he looks scared, he is doing really, really well and as happy as he can be. Because we have to remember, he was taken from a family after 10 and a half years of being with them, and now he's in this new home. But he's doing really well, and it's a really wonderful situation. And he's happy, he's playing, he's doing all those things, but you can see kind of a little bit in his eyes that he's probably sad. I had a rescue pit bull that didn't have the longevity with the family, but the same thing. And it took him a long time before his eyes were really just like completely there. But I share this because the energy of joy, the energy that was going towards Caesar created miracle for him. It can create miracles for animals you're working with. You just have to remember to trust that the power, the energy of love and joy is so powerful. And it can create situations, it can create changes in the positive in ways that you don't think possible. And you don't need to know what's possible. When we go and sit with an animal, we're there just holding space. We don't need to know what's possible, and we don't need to try and change what's happening, right? We have to trust. And that, I think, is really something that Reiki practitioners really need to work on, is our confidence, especially when we work with animals, because we don't get the feedback that we get with humans, right? With a human client, oh yeah, that went well, or no, it didn't go well, because of how they're talking to you or what they're sharing, or whether or not they ever come back to you, right? And that's really not a good litmus test, because I know I've gone to really great masseuses and I didn't go back, not because they weren't good, but just because things changed, I didn't have time, or whatever that was. But it's just, you can kind of tell by how they're acting after the session, what they're saying to you. But with animals, you really can't. So we just have to really trust and have confidence in what we are doing. And the last one is kind of goes hand in hand with the cornering of the animal. It's knowing when the animal is finished with the session and not pushing your own agenda of, oh, I need the customer paid or the client paid for 30-minute Reiki session. The animal is clearly showing me after 15 minutes, the animal does not want to sit in the space with me anymore. And that, if we force the animal, can cause stress again. Now, stress creates situations where animals might vomit, they might have diarrhea, they might start salivating, they might start shaking, as I said before. There's signs that are physical that an animal is showing distress when we don't listen. And as animal Reiki practitioners, we have to be really, really careful that we're not ignoring those signs, that we're not saying, oh yeah, but this person just paid for a longer session, and now I don't know what to do, because the animal is clearly showing that they don't want any part of this. This is why we always tell you, especially if you're level 2, to get 100 hours of practice. It's really important to get as much practice as you can with as many different animals as you can, so that you can be really sensitive to the signs of, I just need to get up and move. I just need to get something to eat. I just need to go to the bathroom, as opposed to, I want this to stop. And as opposed to, I just need you to move back more. The energy might be too strong. I need you to move back. So if they start to move back in the session, that doesn't mean the session's over. It just means that, hey, you want to move back. Thank you, Mel. You might want to move back a little. Or if they're acting kind of like nervous energy, kind of pacing a little bit, that doesn't mean that the session is necessarily over. You have to then try and say, okay, I need to make sure that they're not telling me the session is over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just get farther back from them. And if you get further back and they start to relax, you'll know, oh, okay, they didn't want me to leave. They actually were fine with me being here, but they maybe wanted me farther away. And you know, our energy, especially if our intent is like, you're focused on this animal, which I don't recommend, our energy can be really intense. Remember, animals communicate with energy. They may not want that kind of intenseness. And it's not like, oh, your energy, your Reiki energy is so strong. It is your presence, you know, your energy of trying to do something that causes the harm, right? And so we have to remember Reiki energy on its own is pure light and love, right? But when it's coming from us, when we're in this space and we start to focus on what's wrong, or we start to put our own agenda ahead, now we're actually kind of tainting that energy that's being emitted from us, right? So it's Reiki on its own. Reiki energy cannot do harm, but us, when it starts to like come through us as a filter, right? We're like, oh, we're focusing on what's wrong, or maybe we're, you know, cornering the animal, or we're doing things that aren't necessarily in support of what the animal needs or wants. So be really mindful of that. And then if the animal does end the session after 15 minutes, then what you would want to say is, oh, you know, hey, clearly the animal, it wants to play, wants to run around, is done with the session. So maybe we need to rebook, or, you know, this is why we talked about this before, having really clear policies in case something happens. Have really clear policies in your business. If the animal decides halfway through to stop, what is your policy? Your policy might be, well, I did a session, it's the same price. Or you might be like, oh, I'll give you a discount on the next session, whatever that is. But when the animal clearly wants to stop, and usually if it was a good session and they're done and they've taken what they wanted, they'll show you by like bouncing around and going, shaking it off and going, okay, now it's time to go play. I remember when I was first doing Reiki, I was at my friend Lindsay's house, and she had 3 cats, and one of them was very, very ill, and one of them was just older, and one of them was really young. And I think it was like maybe 20 minutes in, and it got really deep. And so there was like at 25 minutes, his name was Flinty. Flinty like kind of woke up after like this, you know, because at 20 minutes it got really deep. And so like 5 more minutes, he was just sleeping. And then he got up, shook, and then just started bouncing from me to Lindsay's boyfriend Lalo, and back, just bouncing. Okay, it's over. It's over. It's over. We're all done now. And the other 2 cats weren't done, but Flinty was done. Flinty was done. And it was like, the session's over. We're done here. That was a very clear sign. So, and we really couldn't do anymore anyway. Even the other cats wanted more. Flinty was done. So that's something too to keep in mind. You know, if there's more than one animal in the household, I've been with animals where one animal really needed it and wanted it, and one animal didn't. And so halfway through, it'd be like, you know, do you want to continue? This dog, obviously, or cat doesn't want to do this. So we can either continue and move the dog out of the room or do something else. Because if the animal, the second animal, third animal, whatever, is causing issues, and you know that there's a sick animal that is really open and really needs and wants this, then you want to make that animal comfortable and remove the other animal. I always like to make sure that all animals feel welcome, but if one is causing a disturbance, then you need to usually remove the other animal, because for them, they're like, no, I don't want this. I don't need it. I just want to play, but the other animal does. So just to kind of recap, and then I want to open it up to you. And I hope that some of you will share, because I know a lot of you have stories. I know I have even more stories, but The first thing is, we don't want to see ourselves as the healer. We don't want to go in, I'm the healer, you're broken. Because I'm telling you right now, it's one of the reasons the Let Animals Lead method has been so incredibly successful, is because of our mindset. We don't see the animal as broken. We don't go in as I'm the healer. We changed that language a long, long time ago because we know how toxic it is to an animal. Don't allow your emotions to create a disturbance. You want to go in, you want to be really grounded. You want to let go of any worry, any anger, any anxiety for the animal. You want to just make sure you check that, make sure you're not in a nice, really grounded place before you then go in and start sharing Reiki with an animal. And then not allowing freedom of movement. That is a really big one too. We always want to make sure that they feel free to move around as much as possible. Now, you might be in a situation where, like, let's say you're in a studio apartment, right? And there's not a lot of room, or you're at the shelter, and for whatever reason, you have to be in the situation, in the room, in the enclosure with the animal. What you can do is really simple. Turn your back. Don't face the animal. Facing the animal is a very predatory stance, right? And so if they're scared and they don't want you over them or in front of them, then you turn around and you just focus on the wall, focus on the corner, focus on something else. And I know I've shared with you the story at Remus where I took a group down to the gypsy horses who were wild horses. And I told them, okay, just focus on the energy, don't focus on the horses. And I turned around, and Remus is in this beautiful setting. I mean, it's just spectacular, and it's just vast, and the sky goes on forever and the land goes on forever. And you're just out there in this beautiful space. And I was just focused on just gratitude and just this beauty that was around me. And so, after 20 minutes or so, I turn around and all the horses are lined up behind me. They're not in front of the people because they were responding to the energy where there was no attachment to anything. They were just responding and connecting to that beautiful energy that I was creating. But the students were creating the energy of, oh, I really hope the horse comes up to me. Oh, what if the horse doesn't respond? Those kind of things, right? We come in with worry. And then we never want to push our agenda on the animal. Don't push your agenda on the animal. Don't, if the session ends, the animal says no, then we just want to let that go, right? We don't want to force any type of, oh, I need this to happen while I'm here. I need the animal to relax. If the animal doesn't relax, that means it's not working. That's not true. And sometimes Reiki has to layer on itself. But we'll go into that in another call because me, I love to go off on tangents. So I want to just go over here to the chat for a second because I think we got a couple comments. So Mel says, like you said, it's important to be grounded. And you know how I was at the beginning. Oh yeah. So Mel, Mel has many, many talents. She is psychic, very spiritual. And when she came to my Animal Reiki for Reiki practitioners class, and I get this so much, and it's why I love teaching that class, because you get Reiki practitioners who come in, they're very human focused, and they're very, it's got to look like this. I do it this way. It's very effective. And Mel came in, and she had never been taught grounding, really. Yes, through Choku Rei, but not the importance of grounding. And so she was kind of like up here. And once she started grounding, it was like, whoa, everything changed for her. It's so cool to watch. It's so amazing. And I'm just so honored to be able to witness those. And so she said, I've had a lot of stress in the last year, getting very ungrounded. And she got a grounding mat for her bed a few weeks ago, and it has been a game changer, grounding me so that I can ground myself again and expand. Oh yeah. And then T wanted to know, what is the name of that grounding mat? I've seen a lot of them advertised, so it'd be really great, Mel, if you could share the name of the grounding mat, because I would be really interested in knowing too. And because sometimes, I mean, we have to recognize that sometimes breathing or meditating or doing writing Chokurei on your leg, some of those things aren't really effective if we are in high beta. If we're really like we've gone over to that next level of stress that is really hard to come down from. Sometimes we need things like a massage, a Reiki treatment for ourselves, a grounding mat. I think that's such a great tip. And then Karen said, I found sitting or standing away from them, but parallel to their bodies is calming and less confrontational. Yes. Yes, for sure. That is, and I don't know, Mel and Karen, if you'd like to unmute, or anyone else, feel free to unmute, because that is the truth.
I tell you, you changed my way of being able to practice not only Reiki, but also because like you said, I was all up here, and everything. And it's true because I'm very connected to the higher realms.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to be able to actually ground, once I really started grounding, I was able to reach even higher into the higher
Yes.
realms. I was connecting to archangels, and like I was traveling, and not in dream states, but it's just been such an amazing journey after the fact, after since I've been able to ground myself even more. And it helps so tremendously when you're grounded with other animals. um Animals there, because they are in the moment. You have to be able to really be in the moment. You have to really be grounded.
Yeah.
It doesn't work otherwise,
Yeah.
you know. So,
No, definitely. And I love how you said that when we're grounded, it actually helps you go deeper, right? When you create those roots, just like a tree, and we always teach this in class, like a tree, the deeper your roots, the taller you can grow, right? The higher you can be lifted. If you have really shallow roots, anything can topple you over. So yeah, so that's really, really important to ground. So Mel, you'll have
which
to
is which
share.
is it's really true. I'm looking for the
Oh,
grounding mat
okay,
stuff,
thank
but
you.
I but it's very true. So because I had so much stress over the last year, like my roots, I had a lot of roots, and they were surface roots. So anything that came at me just like seemed to really unground me and almost topple me over because my roots were not deep. They were just hanging on to the surface. But once I
Yes,
started being able to ground myself again, bringing my roots as deep as possible, things it is such an amazing experience. And now I've experienced both ways, where I knew my roots were there, they were just surface level, and bringing them back as deep as possible, things are not um top like I'm not toppled, I'm not frazzled as often anymore. My
yes,
anxiety level is gone, and it's such an amazing experience to go through, have both extremes now. And knowing that the grounding part is so essential to life. It's so
yes,
essential.
yes. Not even just, and the more you practice it in life, the easier it is to do with animals. Thank you so much, Mel. I love that. Thank you. Because it's such a great reminder. And we'll do a little meditation at the end, that anybody can do. You don't have to know the precepts or anything. We'll do that. So then Dawn said, something I wrote down for myself is to remember is get out of your head, let go of the outcome, live in the moment, be kind and compassionate with the emotions, and most of all, remain positive. Yes, I love that, Dawn. And I don't know if you want to unmute, but yeah, that is so important. And it's important for us, to have like these little affirmations, these reminders to remind ourselves when we're with animals that, it's, we're going to get worried, of course, we're compassionate, we're empathetic. But when we sit with them, that is our time where we need to let go of us and just be there for them. We can't sit and constantly be thinking about ourselves. We have to really be mindful of what we're bringing to the animals. And so I don't know if anyone else wants to unmute and share, because I'd love to hear. And because you can tell, when people share, we get so much more out of these sessions. I know nobody wants to unmute because nobody wants to like be talking at the same time as somebody. Because we all know if you unmute, somebody else is going to unmute at the same time. Okay, well then, if you're not going to unmute, and please, and you can interrupt me, you can unmute and interrupt me, but I will go on for a little bit. Going back to the grounding, one thing that is so easy, and we'll do a meditation because we are kind of getting to time, but we do have some time if you want to unmute and share, is that the all is well mantra. So you are safe, you are loved, all is well. But what we can do is turn that to ourselves. And I've shared this before. I am safe. I am loved. All is well. Right. So if you are feeling off and you are feeling a little shaken, you can say, I am safe. I am loved. All is well. And just repeat that. And when we do that, you can feel it in your body. And you can say about the animal, you are safe. You are loved. All is well. You are safe. You are loved. All is well. And even if the animal isn't necessarily safe in the way you think it should be safe, because a lot of times what happens is when we go into situations with animals, and I'm guilty of this, like maybe they're in a situation where it's not the perfect situation for that animal. Like the people aren't the best, okay, well, I don't want to call it out, but okay, so recently there was an animal, and when you go to visit, you're like, this isn't the best situation for this animal, but the situation could change. So in this moment, when you're sitting with them, they are safe, they are loved, all is well. We have to get out of that habit of thinking ahead or thinking behind. We have to get into the habit of being present, which is really challenging because that's not what we're taught growing up. All of the examples, everything that we're raised around is look back, look forward, and always be thinking about where you're going to be getting, right? It's never just sit in the moment and enjoy this moment. The only time you really do that is when you're a kid and you're doing something like playing with your friends or eating ice cream or doing whatever it is. For me, it was always like, riding horses. It was so, you have to be present when you're with horses, because if you're not, that's really dangerous. You can get hurt. So just reminding yourself that you only have this moment. Tomorrow may never come. The next 10 minutes may never come. Look at where we are in the world. We don't even know if tomorrow is going to come. And yesterday's what happened has happened. So we just have to stay in this present moment. And when we're working with animals, we always want to be in that present moment. And so for those of you who are interested, Mel gave the link to her grounding mat. I'm excited because I would like to try one of these grounding mats. They're really fascinating. And I think that, for ourselves, and I know for me, I'm really mindful of this because when I go into high beta, when I get past a certain level, it's very hard for me to come back from it. And that's when I have to do something for myself that's not necessarily Reiki, or I can't, because if I try to do the precepts, my mind goes 1,000 miles. If I try to ground myself, if I try to draw chakra, nothing works. I try to do my breathing, nothing's working. And sometimes my breath can even make me feel more anxious. So that's when I either put on something really funny to get myself out of my own head, or I will call somebody and say, hey, could you do Reiki for me? Or I'll listen to music, or there's things that you can do. Or I do say the mantra. And my favorite mantra is everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. So I'll say, all is well, all is well. Everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. And for that, I'm so grateful. And when I say that to myself, and obviously you could have something else, but for me personally, when I say that to myself, when I remind myself, everything always works out for me, everything always works in my favor, then I feel calmer and my energy shifts. Like I just had a spaz out moment this morning. And I was like, I do this. I I pay attention to my finances, but sometimes I don't pay very good. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought I was missing something. And I started to panic and I started to spiral. And I was like, Leah, everything always works out for you. Everything always works out for you. And then I go and check on it. And not only was it what I expected, it was actually more than what I expected. So it was like a bonus. And I'm like, okay, calm down, girl. I always have to tell myself this, because it's life. And we have to also acknowledge, and this is really important when we're working with animals, we have to acknowledge what is going on in the world around us affects us. If you watch the news, if you are on social media, you are getting things in your feed that are upsetting to you. And so we have to be really mindful of that. We might feel like, oh, I feel fine. I'm not stressed, but really inside your energy is going a lot faster, right? So just take a moment for yourself, do some breathing, do something fun, make yourself laugh. Laughter will snap you out of so much, right? Make yourself laugh. Watch a comedian, watch your favorite comedian, and get yourself out of that space. Because the more love and joy you can share, the faster change can happen in this world. And animals show us this is the way to be. So an easy way, if you're really, really upset about an animal and you're having to go sit with that animal and you're having a hard time, do something that's going to make you happy. Dance, listen to really great music, find a happy song, people. Find a song that's guaranteed to make you happy and listen to that song, because I'm guaranteeing you it will help you snap out of it. And then you can go, okay, yes, I can be in that grounded space. So before we run out of time, and does anybody have any comments about this or want to share? And I'm going to give you a second. And then, Mel says her cats love her grounding mat too. That's so cute. So, and then Trina says she has a grounding bed sheet that she uses. It's great. She went to look up their website and she said they're having a big sale. Don't you love this community? I just take a second and go, I just love this community. Because here we are, we're talking about, how can Reiki do harm? And then we're learning about grounding mats and grounding sheets. And Trina shares that there's a sale and Judy gives you a heart. I love this so much. This is so happy. I just love this community. So let's do a short meditation, a grounding meditation to really bring ourselves back into our bodies. And so let's bring our hands into Gasho. Remember, we bring our hands into Gasho at our heart. We are just bringing ourselves into that quiet space, right? Just bringing your hands into Gasho. If you do it enough time, if you do it every single time you meditate, you want to, this alone will just kind of go, brings you just for that second, just brings you into balance. And then, Joy, really quickly, I want to acknowledge you said what you said makes so much sense. You would not want to hear me sing, but I was tonight and the energy lifted. Yes, it's an instant lift. So we're going to do something that that I love and we haven't done in a while. But so we're going to put our hands in a Gasho. We're going to close our eyes for just a second, cut out all outside distractions. And I just want you to set your intent that you're open to receive whatever it is that you need most at this moment in time. And I want you to just make a little dedication let's just make a group dedication to all the animals and the people of this world. And may they be blessed, knowing that they are loved. And that we dedicate the beautiful energy that we're going to create to all sentient beings. And then whenever you're ready, you can bring your hands face up or face down in your lap. You can keep your eyes open or closed, totally up to you. But I want you to bring to mind something that makes you so happy. So you all know I teach this. This is the smiling meditation. And my go-to, I can't even say it without laughing, my go-to image, my go-to word is bunnies. And that makes me so happy. So I am going to sit here and we're just going to breathe and think of your happy. Maybe it's like, maybe the beach brings you that happiness. Maybe a person you just love so much. Like when I think about my son or my nephew, Marcus, I so much love in my heart. You can think about a person, you could think about an animal that brings you so much love. But I want you to focus on that energy of love, that energy of happy love. not just, oh, well, like sometimes a partner, oh, you love your partner, but there's a lot that goes with that, right? Think of just something that just brings that happy love, that, oh my gosh, and that's bunnies for me. I just love those little bunnies. And so just bring that to your heart and allow yourself to feel that happy joy. And when you get that happy, joyful feeling in your heart, I just want you to bring your attention to your breath and imagine you're breathing into your heart. And your breath expands your heart. And on the out breath, you expand that joy and that love just in and out through your heart. And if you find your mind wander, just bring yourself back to your happy word. I'm just going to envision little bunnies hopping everywhere. They are so cute. I love them so much. And just share that love and know and trust that the love that you are putting out to the world is being felt. You might not even know who is feeling this. It could be a spider in your room. It could be a cat next door. It could be the trees. It could be the grass. It could be water. It could be anything that's around you. It could be Mother Earth. And the more joy you share, the more joy you are going to receive. That is a scientific fact. What we put out, we receive back. So as you focus on love and joy and the energy of your heart, breathing in, out, pushing that love and joy out, remember how powerful your energy is. Remember how magical your energy is. Your energy of love and joy can create miracles. And I'd like you to bring your hands into Gosh with your heart and give thanks to all who joined you, even those that you don't even know who joined you. Just giving thanks. And I give special thanks to this community, this beautiful circle we've created. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for being here. I always forget what I'm going to talk about the next week, but you'll get it in the recap email. But on February 4th, I want you all to come with maybe a picture of an animal, because that is World Animal Reiki Day week. World Animal Reiki Day is on the 5th, but I thought on the 4th we could celebrate here. So we'll bring a picture of an animal to share, and we will celebrate animals and give thanks and gratitude. And I'm telling you, that is a really powerful day. And then I think Kathleen is going to do something on the 5th. I don't know if that is going to be, no, the animal does not need to be alive, Chris. In fact, it's really powerful if you bring a picture of an animal that is passed, because energy knows no boundaries. And if you want to send healing or loving energy to that animal, then yes, please do it. And so I just want to make sure that okay, Mary Ellen says, there was a gal doing short videos on mini horses and donkey doing ski joring. Sometimes they have costumes. Oh my gosh, I saw that recently where the little mini horses were like racing, and there's one really sassy one and she just cracks you up. Oh my gosh, just search mini horses racing on skis. And well, they're not on skis, they have little sleds on skis, but it's so cute. And then, Dawn left, but I'm so glad she joined us. And then Karen, yes, you're welcome. Thank you, Karen. And thank you to everyone. And I love it when you join too, Mel. I love when all of you join. It's such a great group of people. So Kathleen is probably going to be doing something on World Animal Reiki Day. I know Kelly's probably going to be doing a special meditation. So I'll be sharing that in the recap, hopefully, if not this week, then next week when we have more of an idea of what people are going to be doing. But then we also have our retreat. No pressure to join the retreat, but I will say this is going to be not like anything we've done before. Nicholas and I will be talking on Sunday. I'm going to be talking about the precepts. Nicholas has shared some really cool history with me about the precepts, and Nicholas said he would join and do the precepts in Japanese with me. So that's really great. But I know that Nicholas is going to be sharing some information on the Bodhisattvas and the deities and how the symbol two. So if you know symbol two, he's going to give you some history on symbol two and how symbol two may have come about. So that's going to be really interesting. I know that Kathleen is going to be talking about all is well. And so getting Kathleen's perspective on all is well and some of her stories that she's going to be sharing. And then Kelly's going to be talking about the pillars and just different ways that we can use the pillars in our everyday life. Some of this you may have heard, but some of this I promise you, you haven't. Also, it's going to be really interactive. So, I hope that doesn't scare you, but it's going to be really good. And I think that the interaction is going to really bring us together as a community. So I really hope you can join that. But thank you all for coming today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Karen. I know. Yay. It's just such a great, I love my Wednesdays. And I have a really busy job and it's like my Wednesdays are non-negotiable. It's like, nope, sorry, got to check out for an hour, right? So Jessica said, animal love here and above. Oh, Jessica. And Wendy said, I'm a bit confused. If we are supposed to be Reiki rather than push Reiki, would it not be in conflict to send Reiki to the animal remotely? Yes. So Wendy, what we're doing when we're doing distant Reiki is our energy goes out, right? So we think about the animal, we go in meditation, we dedicate the energy to the animal. And if the animal wants to connect, great. And if the animal doesn't, they don't. And so we talk a lot about this on these calls. So we might be able to, if you email me directly, you can do it at info@shelteranimalreikiassociation.org. If you email me, I can find some of the YouTubes where we talk about that because it's a really great question. It is confusing. We say offer, we say share, we say sending Reiki, right? But when we say sending and the let animals lead, right? And I know it's so confusing. We're really just sharing that space. So, but yes, thank you for that question. And again, if you want more information, just reach out to me and we can send you some links. And I can also look and see if maybe there's some articles that we can direct you to. So yes, you're welcome for the bunny visual, Judy. And yeah, you're welcome, Wendy. So thank you all so much. And I will see you next week. Cannot remember what I'm talking about, but I know it's going to be good. Bye, everyone.